Okay, welcome back. Hope everyone is doing well and staying safe. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to do example 4.3 today in your textbook. Yeah, so that's from chapter 4. All right, so we did example 3.1 from chapter 3 on Monday. And so it looks like, assuming we get this one done today, that the two assignments, which will be due next Monday, March 1st, are going to be example 3.1, which we already did, and example 4.3. So we're a couple days behind, or a day behind or so, because of Labor Day, but we should be caught up pretty soon. And so yeah, I think these two things will be these two assignments will be due this coming Monday the 1st. Then next week we'll do example 4.4, and then we'll also have a day I set aside to do kind of a midterm review. I think we'll do that next Wednesday. All right, and then both of those things, example 4.4 and the midterm, are going to be due March 8th. Okay, and then we'll always be caught up. But yeah, that's the tentative schedule. Okay, and just remember that your spring break starts the Monday of March 15th, so there won't be any class those two meetings. Okay, I put that in the schedule. So week 7, there won't be any meetings because of spring break on Monday, March 15th, and Wednesday, March 17th. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll do example 4.4 today. I'm sorry, 4.3. Okay, so on Blackboard, you can go ahead and open up the aggregate planning Excel document, the example 4.3 Word document, and then we'll get to the practice questions later. But let's open up these two. All right, so let me read the little description for this one that we're about to do in chapter 4. All right, and so this is going to be an aggregate planning model at this hypothetical shoe company, Sure Step. All right, they sell shoes. And we're going to plan over, I think, a 4-month or 4-period horizon. Okay, during the next 4 months, the Sure Step company must meet on time the following demands: 3,000 shoes in month 1, or pairs of shoes, 5,000 month 2, 2,000 month 3, and 1,000 month 4. So we got to meet those requirements. At the beginning of month 1, we have 500 pairs of shoes to start, and 100 workers. We got to pay each worker $1,500 per month. And workers can work up to 160 hours a month before they get overtime, and then they can work up to 20 hours of overtime at $13 per hour. It takes 4 hours of labor and $15 of raw materials like the leather and the shoelaces and everything else to make a pair of shoes. Okay, before each month or at the beginning, we can hire workers or fire workers, or this company can, and it costs $1,600 to hire a worker. All right, you got to train them and do all that stuff, and it costs $2,000 to fire them because you most likely have some settlement and like a unemployment plan. And if we want to hold shoes after the month for the next month, it costs $3 per pair of shoes to store them in the storage for the inventory. And then what we can do is if we have leftover production, we can save it if it's cost effective and hold it for the next month. Okay, so let's use all this information to set up a little business plan. And the goal that we have to do for sure is to meet all these demand values in each of the 4 months. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So it's called aggregate planning model because we're planning over an aggregate horizon. We have 4 months to plan for, not just one optimal solution. Okay, so if you look here at the spreadsheet, you can see all those values that we just read are in here. So we got, this is how many pairs of shoes we start with, how many workers. This is how many hours they can work regular per month. This is how many overtime hours, hiring cost, firing cost, wages per month, overtime wage rate. Takes 4 hours to make a pair of shoes. Costs $15 in raw materials to make a pair of shoes. And the holding cost or the storage cost is $3. So we're going to try to meet demand each month by satisfying these or using these inputs, and then we'll have some constraints. All right, so the objective, I think, is going to be to minimize total cost for all the months. Huh? All right, so let's go ahead. Okay, there's an optional video there with a link to an aggregate planning little video, so you can take a look at that if you want to. So this is example 4.3, aggregate planning at SureStep, and we're using that aggregate planning 1 Excel file. And so step 1, the first thing we normally do is let's make a note of our inputs, decision variables, and objective. And then again, we started doing this. We're going to make a note of the constraints that we are constrained by to do this optimal solution. Okay, so all of this up here that says input data, all of these numerical values are inputs. So we're going to highlight B4 to B14 in light blue. Okay, for the inputs. The other input is the demand we have to meet. So if you scroll down and see that, forecasted demand. This region are inputs because we have to meet that. And so that's set, so you can highlight B36 to E36 in light blue for the for inputs. All right, we have a bunch of decision variable ranges to meet throughout this 4-month horizon. So first range is we got to decide, or solver's going to decide how many workers to hire and how many workers to fire each month. Okay, so this range, B18 to E19, that's going to be light red for decision variable color. We also have to decide how many shoes to produce. Okay, so those values probably going to change, but highlight B30 to E30, light red for another decision variable range. Okay, and the last thing that we have to decide, or the last decision variable range, is how much overtime to use. So we have to decide that because that helps to minimize our cost. So overtime labor hours used. Okay, this range, B23 to E23, you can highlight that light red. Okay, and then we are going to minimize total cost, which is right there. So looks like F46. That's our objective cell to minimize. So you can highlight that, highlight yellow for our objective. All right, and what about the constraints? So we have some constraints that we have to satisfy to get the optimal solution. First is for overtime. So yeah, so here we go. So when we calculate how much overtime we have available, we can't use more than that. So see where it says overtime labor hours used and max overtime labor hours available. We can't go over that allocation. So this constraint has to be satisfied, and we got to put a inequality here. So you can put less than or equal to. Okay, right there, and then you can also put a less than or equal to in B24 to E24. So put a less than or equal to sign in those cells to show when we do the model that this has to be less than or equal to this, right? We also have a production constraint. So we can't produce more shoes than is possible in the capacity. So this has to be less than or equal to all these production capacities. So put inequalities in B31 to E31, or in particular less than or equal to signs. Okay, and you can see that if you put one in and just grab the bottom right corner, you can always just copy paste like this. Okay, so less than or equal to signs, showing that this is got to be less than or equal to this when we solve the model. And we have one more constraint, and that's the most important. We got to meet the given demand numbers. Okay, so inventory after production has to be greater than or equal to demand. Okay, so put a greater than or equal to right here in B35. Okay, and you can apply that to C35, D35, and E35. So we're showing that this value has got to be greater than or equal to these. Okay, so we have three constraint ranges here. All right, so I think that's it for the setup. So we got inputs. We're going to decide these values, how many workers to hire and fire, how many shoes to produce, and how much overtime to use. We have constraints on overtime, production, and we got to meet demand. And we're going to do that to minimize the total cost for this whole project. All right. Step 2 is let's make some range names. All right. Okay. So let's see. I know we're going to need range names for all the decision variable ranges, all the constraints, and the objectives. So let's just start with those. So we can start with, actually, I think, yeah, we can start with workers hired and workers fired. Okay, so you can select A18 to E19 like this. and we'll make two range names at once. Formulas tab. Create from selection. And the left column is going to give this range workers hired and this range workers fired. Okay. All right. Okay, how about we need this one? Overtime labor hours used, so you can select A23 to E23 and do the same process. Formulas, create from selection, left column, okay. Same for max overtime labor hours available. Select A25 to E25, formulas tab, create from selection, left column, okay.
For the regular times hours available and overtime labor hours used, you did both of those, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, so this one and then this one.
Oh, okay, gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
so yeah, we always have to, like always, I mean, sometimes there's additional ones, but always know that if you see a constraint, we're always going to name both sides of the constraint. So we got to name this part of it and then the other side of it. So we're naming. So when you see a constraint, you know you're doing range names.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we got those ones, and then we got again more constraints. We're going to do shoes produced, and then production capacity to get both sides of the production constraint. So select A30 to E30. Formulas create from selection, left column, okay. And then production capacity, select A32 to E32. Formulas create from selection, left column, okay. Okay, we're not done yet. Inventory after production. Select A34 to E34. Okay, formulas create from selection, left column, okay. You can select the other side of this constraint, forecasted demand, we got to meet that. A36 to E36. Formulas create from selection, left column, okay. And I know we need one for the objective, and let me do that one, and then we'll check our list here. So click on the yellow cell, the yellow cell for the objective, F46, and what are we gonna call it? Let's manually call this total cost because we don't have a name next to it. See, so click on F46, and up in here in the name box, change the X46 or change the F46 to total underscore cost. All right, manually name it. Enter. All right, then let's on formulas tab. I'm gonna click on the name manager and let's go through these. And I think I got them all. So we got forecasted demand. We got inventory after production. We got max overtime labor hours available. We got overtime labor hours used. We got production capacity. We got shoes produced. We got total cost. We got workers fired and workers hired. All right, so those we should have all these that you see here. So does anyone need any of these repeated? Okay, so just note that we made a range name for both sides of the constraints, all three constraints. So that's 6 total range names, and then the other one is for the total cost that we manually did, and then the other decision variable. Okay, so we got those range names. Okay, so step 3 is we're just going to enter any trial values for the workers hired, workers fired, overtime, hours, and number of shoes produced. All right, so we're just going to put values into the light red cells so they could be optimized later with solver. But we got to put numbers that need to be changed. So let's just put any numbers in those cells. So let's go back. Okay, so for workers hired and workers fired, I'm just gonna put ones in there for now. Okay, so you can so this whole range, just put ones in the cells to be changed later by solver, and you can type them in or copy and paste them, or you can do that. Okay, so we got ones in this whole range. Let's put some ones in this whole. I'm gonna. Tyler, I'm gonna turn your sound off for a minute.
Oh, my bad.
But yeah, just sorry, just turn it back on if you have a question. Okay, so let's put ones here. All right, and we already got values here. So you can see that all we're doing is putting just numbers into the red cells to be changed later by solver. All right, so we got ones in workers hired, workers fired, overtime, and then there's already values here. Let's just leave those for now, and we'll get back to that. Okay. Step 4 is let's calculate the workers available each month. So step 4 is in cell B17. Let's put in that, and then we'll calculate the rest of them, like step 4. So okay, so in B17, just equals B5. Okay, so we're saying we're starting with 100 workers, right? In C17, this should say equals B20. Okay, so whatever we have after the starting amount and after hiring and firing is what we had available from the previous month, right? So that's just equals B20. And you can copy, uh, click on C17, grab the bottom right corner and drag it over to D17 and E17 like this. Okay, so you should have equals B5 equals B20 equals C20 and equals D20 there. And then in B20, you can put in that other formula you see there in step 4, which is equals. Okay, equals B17 plus B18 minus B19. So what we have after hiring and firing is what we start with, uh, plus how many we hire, minus how many we fire is the total net left, right? So 100 plus 1 minus 1 is 100. And we can take this formula, click on B20, and you can drag it across to C20, D20, and E20. Okay, so there we got, all right, that number of workers and so on. Okay, so they should all be 100 for now. Okay. All right, for overtime capacity, let's put in that formula in B25 and then copy it to the rest of the range. And I'll explain that one. So let's calculate overtime capacity. Okay, in B25, the formula is equals $B $7 times B20. Okay, so what that means is max labor overtime hours available. If we have this many workers, we can use 20 hours per worker. So the total amount we have available is how many workers we have times how much each can work. So 100 times 20, 2,000. And you can also just click on B25, grab the bottom right corner and drag it to months 2, 3, and 4 like this. Okay, so that should give us the max overtime labor hours available each month, all right, based on the number of workers we have after hiring and firing. Okay, production capacity. So let's do that in B22. Okay, so in cell B22, you can put in the formula there in step 6, which is equals equals $6 times B20. Okay, and what that is this is if we have that many workers, and they can each work up to 160 hours per week, then the total number of regular hours is the number of workers times 160, so 100 times 160. The first month is 16,000. All right, and we're going to apply that to the other months. Okay, so you can click on B22 and grab the bottom right corner and drag it over all the way to E22 like this. Okay, so you copy and paste the regular time hours available for each month. All right, which are all 16,000 for now. Okay, we're still in step 6 in B27. Put in that formula you see there in bold, equals. Equals sum B22 to B23. So total hours are just regular plus overtime. So the total is the sum of the both, so, sum of the two. Okay, equals sum B22 to B23. And again, we can copy that to months 2, 3, and 4. So grab the bottom right corner of B27 and drag it over like this. Okay, so for now we should have 16,001 for each month. Okay, and then finally production capacity. So last formula in step 6 is in B32. The formula is equals. equals B27 divided by $B $12. So production capacity is how many total shoes we could possibly produce given the total number of hours we have and the number of hours it takes to make a pair of shoes. So if we have that many hours, and every 4 hours we could make a pair of shoes, then this divided by that is the total number of shoes we could possibly produce. Okay, so about 4,000. And let's grab the bottom right corner of Okay, let's grab the bottom right corner of B32 and drag it over to months 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so for now we have 4,000 and then 0.25 for each month. All right, everyone everyone doing okay? Are we all caught up and got the same numbers here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, step 7. Step 7, let's determine the inventory each month. So let's start by putting that formula in B34. Okay, so in B34 equals inventory after production equals B4 plus B30. So the first month we start with 500, right? And then we have this many shoes after we produce them. So starting with this plus how many we produce is the total after month 1. And then in C34, put in that other formula in step 7. Equals B37 plus C30. Okay. If we produce this many shoes and we had this many from last month, right, then the total is what's in the inventory from the previous month plus what we produce, right? And let's copy that, click on C34 and drag it over, grab the bottom right corner and drag it to month 3 and month 4. Okay, so we got those values for now, 4260, 3740, 2000, 1000. All right, then in B37. Okay, put in the other formula in we're still in step 7 equals in B34 equals, sorry, in B37 equals. Okay, equals B34 minus B36. All right, and this is so inventory or ending inventory is what we had after production, and we sell this. This demand is this, so these ones go to the customers, and whatever we have left, this minus this is what we put in storage. Okay, so 4260 minus 3000 for month one is 1260. And then let's grab the bottom right corner of B37 and drag it over to month 2, 3, and 4. All right, so we should have zeros in there for now for the other 3 months. All right, step 8. All right, a lot of steps in this one. Let's calculate all these monthly costs. So basically, the list of formulas starts in B40 and goes to B45. So let's put these formulas respectively in those cells. So like this one goes in B40, this one goes in B41, all the way to B45. So let's put those in there. Okay. So in B40, the formula is uh, equals B8 $, B $8 times B18. So the hiring cost is it costs this much to hire per worker. If we hire that many workers, then that times that is the total cost of hiring. All right. Next formula in B41 equals $B $9 times B19. Okay, so firing cost, if it costs this much to fire a worker and we fire that many workers, then that times that is the total firing cost. All right, and B42 equals for regular wages. $B $10 times B20. All right, so what does this mean? This is the regular wages per worker. If we have that many workers, then the total cost spent on this item is that times that. All right, overtime wages in B43 equals $B $11 times B23. Okay, so this is the hourly rate for overtime. If we use this many hours, then the total cost spent on overtime is that times that. Okay, raw material cost in B44 equals $B $13 times B30, which is for, okay, so if that's the cost per pair of raw materials per shoes, and we produce this many shoes, then the total raw material cost is that times that, yeah. Okay, and finally holding costs, which is like the inventory storage cost in B45 equals $$B $14 times B37. So here's the cost to store one pair of shoes. And if we have that many left over, we have to pay to store them, right? So that times that is the total cost spent on inventory. Okay.
Wait, Professor.
Yes.
What's the equation to get regular time wages?
This one?
Yeah.
That's equals $B $10 times B20.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, so we're gonna copy these these formulas to the other months. So double check your values here. Everyone got these values, and the formula is good for month one here. All right, so if we got these, we set it up with the dollar signs that we can just apply the formulas to the rest of the months at the same time. So if we want to select, B40 to B45, we're going to do a super copy paste. All right, so select this whole range and grab the bottom right corner, and let's drag all of it over to apply the formulas to months 2, 3, and 4 like this. Okay, that should work because we specified with the dollar signs the things we wanted to keep constant, and the other things should have changed to the appropriate months. Okay, so hopefully that worked. Now what we're going to do is get the totals and then the total cost, which we're going to minimize in a little bit. Okay, so let's get the totals in row 46 in column F, and then we'll get the total in the yellow objective cell. Yeah? Okay, so in F40, just equals sum of all the months, so equals sum equals sum B40 to E40. Enter. Okay, and then grab the bottom right corner of F40 and drag it down like this. Okay. So you get the total for each item. And then over here, let's get the total for each month. So in B46 equals sum B40 to B45, so the sum of all the costs in month one. Enter. And then we can grab the bottom right corner of B46 and drag it over like this. Okay, and just leave the yellow cell blank for a second because we're going to do a double sum of the sum.
Can you go back to that formula?
Yeah, for this one?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Cause when I typed it in, it gave me an error message.
Okay, so did these ones come out the same?
Yep.
And this one didn't work?
Yeah.
Sum of B40 to B45?
I'm gonna just retype it. Maybe yeah, because it's exactly what you have. Um, all right. Okay, I got it now.
Got it, and then you just drag it over to these ones, yeah?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, and then in the yellow cell, the objective, we need the total of the totals, right? So we'll double check that the total cost for all the items is the same as the total cost for all the months. But so in F46, let's just do equals sum. Equals sum of F40 to F45. Enter. Okay, and then I want to confirm that the totals in the columns are the same as the totals in the rows. So go over to, what is this? Go over to G46, and let's do equals sum. Sum B46 to E46, enter, and those totals should be the same. Okay, so you should confirm that this is 775, 732, and this should also be 775, 732. So did that work? Did we get those?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, we're about to solve this. So we're gonna use solver to minimize total cost. So let's double check if anyone was not here last time or had some problems with solver, that we're able to activate solver. So let's go back to the spreadsheet. And if you click on the data tab, we used this last time, solver. Remember I showed you how to activate it? So click on your data tab and see if you have solver here that you should have from last time if you activated it. But if you had any problems with solver or weren't here on Monday, then you might not. So does anyone need help activating solver? Like click on your data tab and make sure you see solver there. And if you don't see solver there, let me know right now and I'll help you get it.
I don't see solver.
I don't see solver either.
Okay, so what we're going to do is, are you using Windows or Mac?
Windows or Mac.
I'm using a Mac.
Okay, so so there's two. I mean, we have to do the same thing, but it takes separate or it's different steps to do it. Let me use so on Windows. Just click on the File tab, and then click on Options, and it should take you here to Excel Options, and click on Add-ins. Yep. And then click where it says Manage Excel Add-ins. Click on the Go button. All right, and hopefully you got to this add-ins box, and you should see the solver, this one, solver add-in. All right, so if you see solver add-in in your add-ins box, and it's not checked, then check the box. Okay, check the box for solver add-in and hit OK. And that should if you click on Data tab, you should see solver activated up there. So did that work for everyone, for the Windows users? All right, so then so for Mac users, you have to get to this. So you click on what was the what did we who has a Mac and does you remember how to get to the same thing? You click on like options or tools, right? Yeah. So click on. I think if you're using a Mac, you can click on tools up here, I believe, and if you click on tools, it should say like when you click on the tools drop-down menu, it should take you. You should see a feature called add-ins.
Excel add-ins.
Yeah, so tools, and then Excel add-ins. And when you click on Tools on a Mac, when you click on Tools, Excel add-ins, it should take you here. And if it does that, just click on the Solver add-in box and hit OK. All right, so again, if you're using Windows, you got to go through File, Options. If you're using a Mac, you got to click on Tools, Excel add-ins. But both of those should get you eventually to here. So the Mac process is actually a lot quicker.
My add-ins available box is completely empty.
Okay, so what version of Excel are you using?
I'm using the Mac.
Oh, so you're using a Mac and you don't have the option for any add-ins?
Right, so I'm exactly where you're at, or like I think before that, where it says add-ins available, and it's just a completely blank square.
Mm. Are you using an old either an online version or an older version of Excel?
Yeah, it's a little older version.
Um, okay, so if you don't have it for now, that's okay. But you're gonna so I think what you're gonna have to do is get the newer version, the newer student version that's provided free by Laverne, um, and that's gonna have all the features. So if you're using an older version, don't worry about it for now. But maybe for next time for Monday, can you try to just sign up for the free uh, student version of Microsoft Office through Laverne?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, and so I sent a link to it in an email, but it should, if I just, if you just were to Google Microsoft Excel student and click on that, the first thing that's not an ad, then all you gotta do is it should take you here. Now, you don't have to do this right now, but just put in your school information, and Laverne has a contract with Microsoft, which gives all students free access to the student version of Microsoft Office. So try doing that and see if you can get that set up by next Monday, and then when you have that, you should be able to get the solve. Sound good?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Professor, I'm on my Mac, and for some reason, I don't have the tab tools or file to be able to see add-ins.
I think so. I'm sure you have it somewhere. It just might not be visible. And the tools thing, I believe, is like
You have to have your Excel file open. So like it has to be your main file open, and then tools will pop up at the very top. So if you're viewing Professor's screen, like if you're seeing his full screen right now, you're not going to see tools at the top. You have to have the Excel file open.
Okay, thank you.
do you see it?
I mean, I have the file open. I'm trying to expand my screen, but there's still nothing like more showing up. I know what you're talking about, but not doing that for me. I can try sharing my screen so you can see what I see.
Okay.
Are you looking at the top where it has the Apple and file and edit and everything?
Mm,
Because that's where it's going to be at the very, very top of your screen.
yeah, that's where I'm at.
Oh, I don't know that.
So I'm trying to see if this. Here, actually, let's see if we can. Maybe can we share your screen and see if. Let's see. First, let me save this. Okay. Can you try to share? Yeah, there you go. Okay, so Tyler, can you tell her can you see where the tools thing is?
So it's not going to be in this screen right here. It's
Okay.
going to be on your main computer's top part.
Oh, I know.
So like at the very, very top, where like your battery percentage, your volume is going to be up there. You follow me?
Oh yeah, see it up
Yes,
there? Yeah.
I'm
So there's tools.
Yes. So at the very top where it says Excel, File, Edit, View, Insert,
Yeah, it should say right next to
Format.
format.
Yeah.
So click on that.
sorry, on here?
So no, so see up at the top, like go see my arrow or up here where it says tools, way up higher.
You see where the apple is at the top left, the
Oh,
very,
yes,
very,
yes.
yeah, go
Yeah.
over to tools.
Oh, I got it. Okay. And then I can go to what? I'm sorry.
Excel add-ins down at the bottom,
Uh-huh.
and then click. Yeah, there we go. Click on the solver add-in and hit OK.
Oh, got it. Oh,
Oh no,
cannot add in.
don't.
No.
So hit
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and
All
then
right.
click on data tab and see if it did it for you. Well, wait, it didn't do it. No, it's just tools. Oh,
I
let's try
think
it.
she was supposed to hit yes
Oh,
when
I
she
tried.
hit
Okay, try. Yeah, try doing it again.
Oh, okay.
Oh no.
Oh. Mm.
Well, it was okay. I think you're gonna have to try save. Try saving the file and opening it again and see if it comes back. All right. So make sure you save it and then just close it and open again.
I'll just open it again right now and I'll see if it does it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Okay. So that should work. And let me know if it doesn't. To Andrea or is it? I don't know if it's Andrea or Andrea, but
Any is fine, but yeah, I'm trying to figure it out right now. Thank you.
okay. Sure. All right. So everyone else has Solver available now. And again, if something didn't, if you have an older version or you're using an online Excel, might not work. So you're going to have to. I know that the current free Microsoft Office version through the university has it. So if for some reason this doesn't work, or you can't get Solver, then try getting that updated version just by going to that website through Microsoft and putting in your information. All right. So if we have Solver on data, go ahead and so we're back on the model data tab and click on Solver. All right. So we need to set the objective, which is total cost. Okay, so click on this where it says set objective, click on that button, and let's go ahead and choose F46 and select it. All right, so objective is $F, $46. Make sure you change this to minimize or min. All right, so hit that because we want to minimize total cost. All right, we have a bunch of areas to change those 4 decision variable ranges. We're going to have to select them separately. So click on this button. And first, let's do workers hired. So select B18 to E18, and then comma.
Which button did you click? You clicked under the by changing.
Oh yeah. So okay, so we got F46 minimize, and then by changing variable cells, click on that button.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So let's do workers hired, which is B18 to E18, comma. Workers fired, which is B19 to E19, comma. Overtime labor hours used. So you can see the reason we did the coloring is because you know what to select now. So we're selecting all the red cells, the light red cells. So now comma B23 to E23, comma, and then we want the shoes produced B30 to E30. All right, so we selected that range, that range, that range, and that range separated by commas. And if you hit the button, okay, you should have them there. And once we do another button, it's gonna default to the range names, but you should have B18 to E18, comma B19 to E19, comma B23 to E23, comma B30 to E30. All right, and we've got a bunch of constraints, so you can click on the Add button. And the cell reference is the left side of the constraint. So let's see, let's see if I can scroll through here. All right, so anytime we see an inequality, we gotta specify that constraint. So the first one here is the overtime constraint. So cell reference, hit this button and choose B23 to E23. Hit that. Leave that as less than, and then the constraint, hit that button, is B25 to E25. So we're specifying that the overtime labor hours used have to be less than what's available for overtime hours. Okay. All right, and then if you hit OK. Okay, so see at this point it should start putting in your range names. So you should see now your objective is total costs. Make sure that's minimized, and then it should put in your ranges here. Workers hired, workers fired, overtime labor hours used, shoes produced, and also for overtime labor hours used less than or equal to max overtime labor hours available. Okay, so we got this so far. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we got a few more constraints to add. The other 2 constraints, click on, actually I think we have a separate constraint. Okay, all right, back here, so you got this stuff, and click on, we're gonna add some more constraints, click on the Add button. The next constraint is for the production constraint. So let's specify that shoes produced have to be less than or equal to production capacity. So cell reference, hit that button, is B30 to E30. choose that. Okay, leave it as less than or equal to. And the constraint, hit that button, is B32 to E32. Okay. And if you hit OK, we get that constraint should pop up, which should say shoes produced have to be less than or equal to production capacity. We have another constraint. Click on the add button. Now let's specify we got to meet demand. So click on cell reference button. Choose B34 to E34. Okay. Choose that. All right. It flipped the sign around because we have to make sure this is greater than or equal to demand. We have to meet demand. So this should say hit this little arrow and choose greater than or equal to. And then the constraint, hit that button, is for demand. B36 to E36. Hit that and hit OK. And that one should put in inventory after production is got to be greater than or equal to forecasted demand. Okay, we have a few more constraints because we have to specify that the workers hired and fired have to be a whole number. So to do that, if you click on the add button, let's again choose cell reference button and workers hired, which are B18 to E18, and choose that. In this little drop-down menu in the middle, change that to int, and it should fill an integer. So we're saying that B18 to E18 has to be equal to an integer, which means that you can't hire like a fraction of a worker. These have to be whole numbers, or it doesn't make any sense if the workers hired are fractions. So make sure that's integer, and hit OK. And let's also specify that workers fired have to also be an integer. So again, hit the add button one more time. Cell reference B19 to E19, choose that. And change that middle drop-down option to int. So now we're saying B19 to E19 is got to be an integer, which implies that the workers fired have to be whole numbers. And hit OK. All right, so this box, make unconstrained variables non-negative, make sure that's checked. And also the solving method should be simplex LP. All right, so before we solve this, double check that your parameters look like this, and let me know if you need me to specify anything again. Okay, so everyone's got their solver parameters like this.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit the solve button. And hopefully it says you got a solution, and if it does, hit the OK button. Okay, did we get that? 693, 280.
So in mine, there's a whole bunch of pound signs.
Oh, so that means that something happened. There was an error. Okay, so I'll have to look at yours.
Okay.
Yeah, so post yours to the discussion forum for Example43, and I'll look at it in a minute.
All right.
Did most of us get this value? Did we get 693, 280?
I didn't get that.
Okay, you got a different number?
Yeah.
All right. I can look at your file as well if you want to post it.
Do I restore the original values or should I just keep it like this?
What do you mean?
Like, do I like keep put it back to like the original like values, or do I just keep it as like the one or the wrong numbers? I guess. Like,
Oh yeah, just leave it how it is now, and I'll try to
okay.
fix it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So let me run through the solution that I think we should have gotten, and then I'll double check those and see if I can fix them. So we should have gotten that, or I think we should have gotten. My answer is slightly different than the textbook, so maybe, well, it's like a close enough. All right, so I think we didn't hire any workers each month. We fired 7 workers the first month, and then 43 month 3. We only used overtime in month 2. That must have been the cost-effective option, and we produced these number of shoes each month: 3720, 3780, 2000, 1000. And you can see that we met the constraints. We didn't use more overtime than we had. We didn't produce more than wait a minute, or we didn't produce more than we had capacity, so we used all of it here, and we met demand. So you had to make sure that the whole point of this was to make sure that these numbers were met, at least, and at a cost minimum solution. And it looks like the least costly way to do this project was at a cost of $693,280. All right, let me see. What we got here? Oh, Tyler, I think you just need to make the cells bigger. Wait a minute. Why are the
You
numbers?
sure about that one?
Well, so you have, yeah. So you got the reason why you got these numbers is because the number. Look how big the numbers are.
Yeah.
So something went. Let me see. Okay, and then we got some fractions here. So let me just look at.
Like my production capacity numbers changed. Like all my numbers changed.
Oh, so I think maybe if we just change this, let's see.
Oh, the simple.
Yeah, that was it. So you just didn't check that box, and you did a nonlinear, but it just so just click on data
Simple.
solver and change this solving method to simplex LP, and hit solve, and that should do it.
All right. Can I see your numbers and make sure we have the same ones?
Yeah. Well, these are yours now. But
That's not what I got on my screen.
really?
No, I got like for example,
Did you get this? 692 500.
for which number? For which cell?
This one, the F40, the yellow one, the F46.
I got 510,000.
Hmm.
So you said I go to solver and then I switch it to simplex LP, right?
Yeah, it worked on. I did it.
Make
on mine.
so do I uncheck make unconstrained variables non-negative or keep that checked?
Yeah, check that too.
Okay, so that been checked, yeah. I literally just changed simplex LP and hit solve, and
because I got slightly different numbers for yours, but I got close enough. I got for you, I got 692 500. Is that what you
all
got?
right. So now I got 766 500.
Hmm.
Like it just switched again. Well, our ending inventory is different. Go back, hit close when you get a chance. You see, like your ending inventory, mine has numbers in each one except for E37. So like B37 has 1500, C37 has 500.
I have the same thing as Tyler.
So also yours is why? Because what we specified these to be integers. I don't know why they're not being integers. Huh. You have 693 280 as well. I mean, this is
No, I have 766 502.
Yeah, me and him are damn near identical. I have 766 500.
the main issue I see is that I don't know. Are yours decimals? Do you have like does it say like 43.75 here?
For the hired and fired?
Yeah.
No, that's just zero.
Well, it's weird that so whatever's happening on your computer is doing different because this is your file and I'm getting
Yeah,
different.
no.
So I think it has to be click on the solver again and make sure it looks just like this. So this should say up here. That's right. Make sure this is minimized, and because I think
Mhm.
these are I think it's defaulting to my solver parameters. And so, do you have these two things?
Workers underscore fired equals integer. Workers underscore hired equals integer.
You have
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And this one is inventory after production is greater than or equal to forecasted demand,
Yep.
and this is minimized, right?
Yep.
Well, it looks right to me because it's coming up. I mean, it's slightly off, but I don't know why it's giving you fractions here, but
All right.
it's weird that both of you would get the same.
It's not giving me fractions for workers fired. It's just zero.
Mm. Well, yeah, I can't really tell. It looks right to me. So
Okay.
I say just save it and close enough. You'll still get full credit, and I think
Sounds
it's
good to
just
me.
yeah something's just going on. I don't know.
Okay.
All right. So hopefully some of us got 693 280 and
No. I figured out the problem.
oh, what is it?
I accidentally flipped the sign.
In the parameters.
Yeah.
So which one?
For inventory after production,
Oh, so this was a less than.
it was, yeah, it was less than.
Okay. maybe, so if you and Tyler were getting the same problem, maybe check that one more time, Tyler. Make sure that this is a greater than or equal to right there, not a less than.
For which one?
So inventory
The
after
first one?
production has to be greater than or equal to, not less than or equal to. So I think, well, that was the problem.
Yeah, mine is greater than or equal to.
Okay.
Yeah, like mine's is like exactly what you have under your solver parameters.
All right. Well, close enough. It looks, the file looked right to me, and I don't, and it was weird that we were both getting different things. So just, yeah, just save it as it is, and
Okay.
it looks good to me. All right. Okay, so here's what we've done the main. All right, so everyone's got. Oops, that's supposed to be shared. Okay, so everyone else has a solution here close to 693,280, and so let me know if you didn't get anything with the solver, and we're who had the Andrea, were you able to get the solver working? Okay, so the rest of this is just kind of changing things, so we don't need to do the rest of these steps. So step 11, we don't need to do the solver table. We don't need to do step 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 because those are just kind of extensions. But we'll do the practice question. All right, so full credit for this assignment, just steps 1 through 10. And so whatever you've got up to this point, up to the first solver, minimize total cost. All right, so everyone's got something that looks like this. So if you do save that, and this is the completed aggregate planning, that goes right there. All right, so just up to this point is full credit. Don't worry about the rest of it. Okay, and let's run through the practice question real quick. Okay, so under example 4.3, you can click on example 4.3 practice questions solved. All right, so we got a little screen cap of something similar to what we did. I might have changed some of the values, and the questions are number A or part A. All right, so if you got a screen cap like this or a take-home exam question, part A is calculate production capacity for each month. All right, manually, and so production capacity is just how many total shoes you could possibly produce, the capacity, the maximum for each month. And so that is, you find the total number of hours each month and divide that by how many hours it takes to make a pair of shoes. So you see that every 4.4 hours we can make a pair of shoes, labor hours per pair of shoes, and this is how many total hours we have each month. And so each month is different, but for month one, take 10,384 total hours we have for production and divide that by by 4.4 because every 4.4 hours we can make a pair of shoes. So that divided by that gives us the total number of shoes we could produce that month, which is 2,360. So we can possibly produce 2,360 pairs of shoes in month one. We have the same number of hours in months 2 and 3, So the production capacity is going to be the same, 10,384 divided by 4.4. Okay, so see, just you got to know which numbers you got to find. And that means in month 2, we can produce production capacity 2,360. In month 3, 10,384, again divided by 4.4. Gives us 2,360 for month 3. And then again, or look at the hours for month 4. And so month 4, we had 10,428. So if you divide that by the 4.4 rate, in month 4, production capacity is a little bit different. It's 2,370. So for this question, for production capacity, just take the total hours for production each month and divide that by the labor hours per pair of shoes, because that determines the total number of shoes you can produce each month. All right, so part B, this constant production function is not an accurate depiction of reality. So what concept do we normally observe as more labor is added to production? And so what I mean here is that this model assumes, we're simplifying it, that the labor hours per pair of shoes is always the same. So no matter how many hours, like if we use 1 hour or 2 hours or 100 hours, the rate to produce a pair of shoes is always the same. The rate is always 4.4 hours. So if we have 4.4 hours, we can produce a pair of shoes, regardless of how many hours we've totally produced. So that's unrealistic. It's an assumption because normally the first few hours are more productive, but as the hours go on, they become less and less productive because there's not enough resources to go around. And so normally you see you might have heard of this concept called diminishing returns to production. So normally you see most production functions have a diminishing returns concept, and that means that as you add more and more and more hours, they become less productive because there's less work and there's less productivity to make a pair of shoes. So what I mean is like the first couple hours are very productive, but once you have like 1,000 hours, then the 1,001 hour is not very productive because there's not much else to do, right? So you have like workers, there's a limited number of machines, a limited number of like computers, and at some point there's nothing for the additional hour to be done. Okay, and then C, draw a production function that illustrates your answer to B. All right, so I put this in here. And so this is a production function that shows the more realistic fact that there's diminishing return. So this is total product, which is the total number of pairs of shoes, and this is the units of input, which are labor. So see, like if we have no labor, we have no shoes. But if we had like 4.4 hours, they produce 1 pair of shoes, and then normally what happens is the first whatever so hours are very productive. We're producing tons of shoes. And then as you produce a bunch of shoes, they produce more shoes, but less productive. And then here, at whatever hour cutoff this is, let's just say it's like 1,000. And once you add 1,001 hours, you're getting less return than the actual, so you're getting diminishing returns. So these workers are so unproductive that they're running into people and they're just causing havoc. And so at some point your production process maxes out, and the additional units of labor are not only less productive, they're unproductive. So this is in a typical like factory or production scenario. This is usually how it works out. So no matter what you're producing or what you're supplying, the initial labor is productive, then it becomes productive but less, so increasing at a decreasing rate, and then at some point you can find the cutoff where each additional hour is unproductive, like your returns are decreasing. Okay. All right, so questions on this little practice question here. All right, how to get production capacity, and then it's important to illustrate that we made an assumption in this model that we had constant returns, but in reality we probably have diminishing returns. All right, close that. Okay, so we'll finish up here in a second. So again, to post your aggregate planning 1 into the into the discussion forum, and we just did steps 1 through 10. So that's all you have to do for this one. Steps 11 through 12, or 11 through 15. Don't worry about those. We didn't get to those. Those were just extensions. So steps 1 through 10 are full credit. Okay, so example 3.1 that we did Monday and example 4.3 that we just did, those are due next Monday, the 1st, March 1st. And yeah, and then next week, we'll do this one on Monday. And we'll do a little review for the take-home exam next Wednesday. All right, so I think that's it for today. And everyone, please have a good weekend. Stay safe. I'll see you next Monday morning. And thanks for joining. And see you Monday.
You too, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, Professor.
Thank you.